Welcome back to Excel is Easy, Lesson 4. This is Susan Spitzberg, your instructor and your guide. And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the average function and also absolute versus relative addressing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put in a column with average. And then I'm going to go to the average function, which is the down arrow next to the auto sum or sum function that we used last time. So I'm going to click on here, the down arrow, and I'm going to select average. And what I want to show you that you have to be careful is Excel always goes out shopping and tries to find a range for you. And you always want to check your range, because here you can see this is B5 through E5, and we don't want the total in there because that would really screw up our average. So we have to click in the first cell and drag across, keep your finger on the mouse button, and get a new average range, which is B5 through D5, which is correct. And then I'll hit the check mark, and then I'm going to double click on the fill handle here. The fill handle is this little square wart in the corner. So we could click and drag down, but a neat trick that I learned from a student once a few years ago was to just double click it. And when you do that, it will stop when it sees that there's no longer a function on the side, or it hits a blank cell, or it hits a cell with text in it. So now we have our average, and while we have it selected, let's play around with the decimals. So up here we have our goose eggs 2/1, which means that every time we click it, we're going to decrease a decimal. So I'm going to just click that, and it actually added a couple of decimals of 0, but we'll leave it like that because that gives us a pretty good idea of what the average is. If we wanted to hit it one more time, or two more times even, it would round up for us. So either way is fine. It depends on, what you're trying to do and maybe what your company wants you to do. They may talk about always having all calculated numbers to 2 decimal points or something on that order. So the next thing that we're going to do is percent of total. And I'm also going to wrap this because you can see that it slops over into column H. And we wouldn't want to make column G wide enough to fix it, because then the column is wider than all the rest of them and it just really doesn't look good. So up here we have this AB over C, which is wrap text. And if I click that, it puts the text on 2 rows instead of 1. And it makes this row wider, but that's, taller, but that's not a problem because all the data still looks the same. Now, percent of total is taken by using the total of somebody divided by the grand total. And so we're going to put the grand total down here before we start. And this is a simple function of sum. And we check and our ranges are correct. So now we have our grand total here. So our percent of total is going to be the total sales from the rep divided by the grand total of the sales. And I'm going to start with an equal sign because that tells Excel that what follows is a calculation. And I'm going to click on the total, and then I'm going to divide. And on my keyboard, the divide is underneath the question mark. And if you have a numeric keypad, it will also be there. It's the /. And then I'm going to click on grand total. And then I'm going to hit the check mark. And this tells me that Sheldon is about 16% of the grand total. So now we use the fill handle and drag down. And right away we see that we have a problem. And the problem is that Excel is trying to divide by 0. And you can't do that. All right, that is not an Excel rule, that is a mathematical rule. So let's see if we can figure out what the problem is. So we know that this one is correct, and here's what we had. Is we went 2 to the left, and then we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 down here to get each 12. So here's what happened here. We went here and we went across, and that's fine. But then when we counted down, we wound up in E13, and E13 is blank. So we have a problem that in this particular calculation, we want grand total to be used in everything here, not just the first one. And here when we took the totals, we didn't have to worry about that because we were just collecting all three of these things going across. And if you think about it, this is what we call relative addressing, because these were relative to where our formula was. So this was 3 to the left, 2 to the left, 1 to the left, and that worked all the way down. So what we have to do here is tell Excel that we only want to use the grand total when we copy this. We absolutely want to use the grand total. And the way we fix that is, and you don't have to do it wrong to go back and fix it. Once you get used to doing this, you can do this right when you put your formula in. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click between the E and the 12, but it works if you do it before the E and after the 12 also. And I'm going to press the function 4 key. And what the function 4 key is going to do is it's going to put these cute little dollar signs before the E and after the E. Now, if you have a laptop and it's just too hard to get to your function keys, or maybe they're not even there, you can also type Shift 4, which is the dollar sign. And you would do that before the E and before the 12. And Excel has no idea where the dollar signs came from, whether it was from the keyboard or from the function keys, and it really doesn't care. So basically what we're saying is we're going to take the cell that is 2 to the left, and we're going to always divide it by the cell that the formula in, or the contents, let's put it that way, of E12. So I'll hit the check mark, and then I will use the fill handle, and you don't have to delete the other stuff. You can just steamroll right over it. And we have our percentages, and let's go up here to the number section and change that to the percentage function, and that way we can see better. And so you can see that Sheldon has been responsible for 16% of the grand total, and Amy has been responsible for the most at 20%. And while we're in here, even though I don't have it on the list, let's change some of the formatting here. So on the total, let's make this currency, and we don't want to hit the dollar sign here because this is accounting and we want currency, so we'll put in currency. And because of the fact that there are no pennies here, let's take off the decimal points and just have the dollar sign here. Now the difference between using currency and using the dollar sign here is where the actual dollar signs will show. So if I click on here, as you can see, the dollar signs are hugging the left wall, whereas when I use the currency, the dollar signs are hugging the actual text. So your company may have a rule on what they want to do here. I'm again taking off the decimals. And if not, you have to decide what you want to do. Many times, if you have a very long list of things that are being added and they are money, what you would do is just do the first one with accounting, and that tells your eye that everything else that follows is also money. So that is our lesson for today, with one exception. I'm going to change the title because now that we have a couple of other cells in here, it is not merging and centered across the top. So I'm going to click on here, take off the merge and center, select the range over again, and put it back on. And I will do the same thing, because if you recall, you cannot do them at the same time because Excel will think that you want to actually be between rows 1 and 2, and we don't want to do that. So I'm taking that off, and then I will put it back on, and now they are merged and centered over everything. So let me show you what we're going to be doing next time. So next time we're going to be talking about charting, and everybody says a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's what we're going to be doing. But we're also going to be doing spark lines, which is sort of like a mini chart, and that's something that was added to Excel 2 versions ago. So if you have a very old version of Excel, you don't have spark lines on there. But those are the things we're going to talk about next time. I hope that you will tune in, tell all your friends, and I will see you then.